Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Awakening Spaces podcast. Today, my guest is Dr. Emily Kiberd. She is a chiropractor of 18 years, a mama of two, and the founder of Thyroid Strong. She knows exactly what it takes to heal from mold after 5 mold remediations over the last decade. And she discovered that addressing mold exposure was the missing link that put her Hashimoto's into remission. So now she's on a mission to help women heal their bodies and their homes because it's not a matter of if you're going to be exposed to mold, but when. And I loved our conversation because we talk a lot about just building resiliency in the body, something that I talk about all the time. And I think it is important for us to build the resiliency in our bodies so that we have the capacity when we have exposures, right? Because life is about living. I hope you love this episode just as much as I did. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hey, Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to chat with you more. So Emily and I met at a business conference for women, and it was really fun to meet somebody there who is actually in the same industry and space and understood what I was talking about. And I think we had a mutual friend who connected us and was like, you got to meet each other. So of course I was like, I want to have you on the podcast to chat more about your story and how you help people. So why don't you share what you do and how you help people and how you got here?
Yeah. So I'm a chiropractor by training. I had a clinic in New York City for 14 years. And when I had my firstborn in 2016, I was exhausted, could not lose weight. My hair was falling out, massive brain fog. I went through 5 different doctors and was put on different supplement protocols, even saw functional medicine doctors, and finally met the doctor who's now still my doctor and dear friend, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's like, you have Hashimoto's. Your thyroid antibodies are off the charts. Let's try and get you into remission. And at the time, I knew nothing about it. I was like, just get me better. I just need to function. I'm like, this is not how my life can go on. Everyone told me this is what it's like to be a new mom. I was like, no way. This sucks. 18 months postpartum, I was like, oh, it wasn't just new mom. I actually had an autoimmune thyroid disease called Hashimoto's, where your body is attacking your own thyroid gland. And part of that process was changing how I was working out, how I was eating, sleeping, so kind of foundational health stuff, but then also from a root cause approach. So I had parasites from traveling in India way back in my 20s. These guys were probably with me for a couple decades. One of the major things was mold exposure in my Brooklyn condo. We remediated twice, did a $20,000 mold inspection, multiple $50,000 remediations, but we could not find the source. We knew where water was coming in and we kept resealing around the windows. And we eventually sold that condo during COVID. And I was sick. My kiddo at the time was sick. So I tested him when he was 18 months old and he had mold exposure as an 18-month-old. He used to get eczema around his mouth. I used to get hormonal eczema on my hand. And so that really kicked off the journey of diving into functional medicine. And my Hashimoto's is luckily in remission. So about 20% of women can go into remission, which means your labs look good, your antibodies are down, and you feel good. You don't have symptoms. And since we sold that condo, we bought a house in Boulder, and it's a 1977 house. And it's interesting to watch my nervous system through this process. Like now I have emotional neutrality. I can move through it and hold space and capacity. But when I was first going through it, very dysregulated in a freeze state. So we bought a house in Boulder, we were like, we're just going to take down the wall between the kitchen and the living room. The whole house is water damaged because there's like siding defect and there's plastic where the air is coming through. Dropping to the plastic, dropping to the subfloor. And we had no idea. We brought an inspector. We even brought a mold inspector in before we closed on the house. Since then, that house is still, we're still paying a mortgage on it, but it's still sitting there. We have not renovated it yet. Bigger renovation than we thought. We've been in 4 different rentals in Boulder. All of them have had water damage or mold events. And so I think for the listener, I chose from New York City, more humid, more damp, to Boulder, quote unquote, dry, I was like, oh, we're not going to have to worry about this. This is going to be a thing of the past. We're going to start anew. And it's been a part of the journey for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I think part of the work that I do with women is let's identify what's driving this autoimmune disease. One of the major things could be mold exposure. I would say 80% of the women I work with who have Hashimoto's that I see have mold exposure. And it's not only to remove yourself from exposure, get the mold out of your body, but how can we make ourselves as resilient and robust as possible? Because exposure is not if, but when.
Mhm.
My Walgreens, you walk in there, it is like brown ceiling tiles. Sometimes I go to the doctor's office and I'm like, there's mold in here, you know? And so I think it's how can we get ourselves not to live in a bubble and be like, I don't want to get exposed, but how can we really make ourselves resilient, robust? Exposure is going to happen. Let's move through it with grace and emotional neutrality and really come out the other side
Mhm.
a better version of ourselves. So that was my mold journey. It continues to be my mold journey. And as you know, no house is 100% mold free.
Okay.
I have people, they're like, I don't have mold in my house, Em. My house is 2 years old. And then we find mold. And I'm like, anytime there's a pipe behind a wall, a toilet on tile, there is a potential for water damage. And then, mold grows within 48 hours, according to the EPA, of water exposure. So that's been my journey. And it is something that is so close to my heart because I was like non-functioning, like couldn't finish my sentence, felt like I wanted to sleep all the time, brain fog. And I got to the other side of that. And if you ever go in the Facebook groups, like the mold
Mhm.
Facebook groups, they are scary. Like people drinking a glass of water and having a histamine response, like hives. And so those are the people I help. And it is, I think, massively underdiagnosed because it's not recognized by conventional medicine as a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, wow, you've really been through it, and I love what you shared just about like building resiliency and like I couldn't agree with you more. Like we have to increase our capacity to be able to handle different scenarios, and that's like the goal, right? The goal is to be able to walk through life knowing that it might be there, but knowing that we don't have to fear it, knowing that our body can handle it, we can feel safe in our bodies. And you're totally right. Like, I also love that you brought up the climate thing because I think that's a really big misconception for people. Every home has plumbing, for one, and dry climates, even Arizona has monsoon season where it will rain for months and then it's super dry the rest of the year. So what happens during those months when it's raining? Is the home built to withstand that? And then in Colorado, we have dry air, but it's really not that dry. And we also have snow and spring and wet season. And also our codes are literally requiring an interior vapor barrier, which is a piece of plastic that prevents drying to the inside during our hot summer months. So those things are all changing, and I think the awareness of that is growing. But it seems like every home has some pretty severe issues. So understanding how we can help our bodies is going to be monumental in that healing journey.
Yeah, 100%. And some of the homes that I used to be attracted to, like the architecturally beautiful, like the home, like the Scandinavian, no eaves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or overhang from the roof or flat top. Now I'm like, I will never buy a house like that. And I'm sure from your expertise, there's architectural ways and building ways to make that ideal. But I think of New York City and I think of all those flat top roofs. And I think, okay, ideal world, those roofs get checked for cracks and leaks once every 6 months. That never happens. So
Right.
I find for my New York clients specifically, especially in New York City, that healing is extra challenging just from so much exposure, from building exposure, pollution. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And then electromagnetic radiation too. Just any big city.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, I mean, you can do anything with the house. You can custom build it, but unless you're managing that process, these these architectural elements become really high risk. So I always like to encourage like not to have fear around them if it's you going in and designing, but any building that you didn't have control over, it is risky. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about your experience. So you said brain fog. I just wanted to know, like, when you began healing yourself from the Hashimoto's and the mold, did that automatically go away for you, or were there other, uh, you know, methods that you've done or therapies that you did specifically for brain fog?
So nervous system regulation is a big one. If anyone had told me how dysregulating motherhood can be, I'm like, what would I have just had one instead of two? So what I have found is not only like the brain not working, or especially in a lot of the moms, I have a lot of homeschool moms, surprisingly, that kind of 2 p.m. energy dip. They go and take a nap and they think it's, oh, I'm like so stressed from homeschooling or just like holding it all together. And I have them go tap into some nervous system regulation, right? Because they're dysregulated, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or they're fawn, they're people pleasing their kids. Some of the tools I love are Primal Trust, DNRS, Goop does another one. I love this app called Your Daily Health, just like gives you the tools straight away. And these mothers, along with dealing with other root causes, they're like, oh, I didn't need that nap at 2 p.m. I thought I was fatigued and exhausted and my brain was shut down, but actually I just needed to regulate and tell my body that I'm safe. So that's another one that I find, along with, parasites, gut infections, bacterial overgrowth, fungal infections. Those can all, right? There's a very strong gut-brain connection. And so I'll give you an example. I went camping, Rocky Mountain National Park. I love backcountry camping. It builds grit in my kids. And every time I get Giardia, despite we have this like amazing water filter, and I will know within a day, my brain will just stop. It's like a light switch turned off, and I'll test myself with a stool test. Giardia will come up and I'll treat myself and I'll get better. But brain function and mental clarity for me is one of the big, including mold exposure. My brain, like brain fog and fatigue, those are my two big ones.
Oh my gosh, me too. That was like my biggest I felt like the cognitive decline was so real for me, and it still continues to be something that I struggle with. And I've been consistently going to neurofeedback for years now because it helps, I feel, so instantaneously better, and obviously nervous system too. So that's why I was curious what you did for yours. But you mentioned like testing, and I'm curious first, when people are coming to you, what are the symptoms that they're generally having, and how are you testing to understand like what pieces of the puzzle are impacting them?
Yeah. So for Hashimoto's, number 1 and 2 is I want to lose weight. This weight won't come off no matter what I do. I've cut my calories. I've been working out, but the weight won't come off. And then number 2 is I'm exhausted and I need to get my energy back. There's other symptoms. So like brain fog, hair loss, cold intolerance, exercise intolerance. But those would be the two big ones. And there's so much overlap. So Hashimoto's can cause that. Iron deficiency, more with the fatigue, not so much the weight gain. Mold can make you hold on to weight. I'll tell you a story. My aunt has a beach house out in Long Island in the Hamptons, and it's like the little shack amongst these mansions. And we go, and I know there's mold in there, so I know what I'm getting into, but it's walkable to the beach and it's free. I will gain 10 pounds in 7 days and nothing would have changed.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Right. So mold is lipophilic. It loves fat. It gets stored in your fat tissue and it makes you hold on to weight. So anytime there's weight loss resistance or not being able to lose weight, brain fog, fatigue, there's certain things I'm thinking. I'm thinking mold. I'm thinking, okay, let's check your hormones, gut, parasites, sleep apnea, right? So a lot of women that I see aren't sleeping. They're getting up multiple times a night and they're fatigued. You're getting up multiple times. You're not getting enough deep sleep. You're not even getting enough, uninterrupted sleep. And so then my brain, okay, what causes sleep disruption? Histamine response to mold, an H3 histamine response in the middle of the night is one of the things that can wake you up. Other things, including hormones, parasites, glucose drop, are on the list, but mold is always on that list as well. And I don't think there's enough mold literate providers out there. right? There's lots of hormone providers, there's lots of gut providers, but to really know mold takes a lot of training, and there's different viewpoints on it from different industry leaders. And so, but it's, for me, it's always on my differential diagnosis.
Yeah. And how are you testing? Like, what kind of tests are you doing for people? How could they know? Like when you come in, I'm assuming you probably have like an intake form. Walk us through just quickly, like what does that look like for somebody?
Yeah. So when someone sees me, I have them fill out probably a 12-page intake, hopefully asking them questions that they've never been asked before. Did you grow up in a house with well water? How much travel have you done? Do you eat sushi? Do you have pets? Do you live in a certain radius of a farm or a golf course? We're thinking about pesticide exposure there. So fill out that intake. I look at all the labs they've had because I want to know, okay, where was there a certain shift, right? So I have a client, she got all her mercury amalgams out, got them replaced. They didn't take them out properly. And like immediately, very soon after, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, right? So we're kind of thinking, okay, there's some heavy metal exposure that happened. We look at their labs, and then we have our first call to really kind of navigate, okay, what else are we looking that has been overlooked? What additional testing do we need? So it might be more comprehensive blood work. It might be a stool test, like a GI map that's using PCR. It's looking for DNA strains of bacteria, viruses, parasites in the stool. Sometimes we're using more specific hormone testing, like a Dutch test. Mycotoxin testing, which are byproducts of mold, can be done in different ways. And actually, a lot of people have their own. They're like, well, I do it this way.
Yeah.
I've been trained by Neil Nathan and Jill Krista. Jill Krista is a naturopath. Neil Nathan's an MD. So I kind of follow their lineage, but they use a urine mycotoxin test. They prefer real-time labs. Depending on who you talk to, Jill Krista will do a glutathione push. Glutathione's your body's natural antioxidant. And then she'll do a glutathione protocol, and then you sit in a sauna in sweat, and then you collect your urine and send it off. So for people who are not good detoxifiers, that's the protocol before you would collect the urine to see if there's mycotoxin or mold byproducts in the urine. I use some very specific parasite testing that is more microscopy, where they actually are like plating it and putting it under a microscope. And then an organic acid test, which is also a urine test. So the goal is not to like barrage people with tests, because it can be an investment and expensive, especially if they have a remediation coming up. The goal is to get the data. What are we working with? What's the right order of operation? And then hopefully each step of the way, as you're addressing things one by one, people are feeling better. People are sleeping through the night. They don't have to take that afternoon nap. They're not having full body hives. I have a client in Utah. She's like, oh yeah, I get full body hives every time it's spring. It's just that like ragweed. And I was like, not normal. And she actually had a water leak behind her kitchen counter, remediated. She does not get hives anymore.
Wow.
And so like, here's this thing, like kind of the story that she told herself, and she just didn't know. So, life has totally changed for her. So,
yeah. I know. I feel like the seasonal allergies actually end up getting a lot better when we start to remove the toxins from our body, whatever they might be, right? Like, I even remember you talked a lot about parasites too. I mean, it's a full moon right now. For anyone listening, this probably won't be released until a little later, but it's a super moon right now. And that's, they say that parasites are most active during the full moon. And I did heavy parasite cleansing at the beginning of my journey years ago. And now I'll do one like once a year. I might need to do it a little bit more, but once a year I try to do one. And it was wild. I really did feel different during the full moon. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you probably slept better. You probably didn't have any itchiness anywhere. Your brain was probably functioning on like just a crisper level.
Yeah. It's crazy. We are natural beings.
Massively underdiagnosed. Like
Yeah.
conventional medicine's like, oh, that happens only in the third world countries. And you're like,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
anyone who's eaten sushi and has a dog probably has parasites.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you have a policy of a parasite, we all have
Yeah,
parasites, but again,
totally.
it's not about like remove every single parasite. At least that's my perspective, right? It's about how do we get a nice equilibrium with them where
Yeah.
they're not overrunning, our bodies.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
It's like crazy too when you start to do these parasite cleanses and you start to actually pass them and you can physically see what's coming out. So sorry, TMI everybody, but if you haven't done a parasite cleanse or worked through that, I highly recommend it. It will be life-changing actually.
Yeah,
Um, but
totally.
yeah, I wanted to just ask a little bit more about Hashimoto's too. Like, what are some of the biggest misconceptions around Hashimoto's in the health space that you see?
Yeah. So Hashimoto's affects the thyroid gland. Every single cell in the body needs thyroid hormone to function. So there's so much focus on the thyroid gland, but the thyroid gland is so sensitive. So people assume, oh, if I just go to the endocrinologist, I just get the right medication, I'll feel better. Sometimes the endocrinologist goes, well, oh, go gluten-free too, because there is some research around gluten, gliadin, the protein in gluten, driving up TPO, thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So take your meds, go gluten-free. A person's like, great, I cannot wait to lose weight, have my brain function, and it gets my energy back. And they take the meds and they go gluten-free and they're like, I do not feel any better. And I did exactly what I was told, probably after waiting months and months and months for a doctor's appointment. So I think that's a common misconception. And I think Hashimoto's is a trifecta. So one of the pieces of this trifecta is your genetics. Mother has thyroid issues. My mother has thyroid issues. Sister, grandmother, whoever. The other piece is gut. So if we have leaky gut or the junction in our gut lining is not tight, right, it's kind of open, then food, bacteria, viruses can move through the gut lining into the bloodstream. And when those things are in the bloodstream, the body's like, those aren't supposed to be there. Let's attack. And now there's this chronic low-grade inflammation. So we have genetics, gut, and then stress. And stress can come in the form of emotional stress, trauma, divorce. A lot of women are like, I just got divorced and now I have Hashimoto's. But it can also come in the form of environmental load. So parasites, heavy metals, mold, mycotoxins are all in that bucket of stress. And so I'm sure you've heard this, like your genetics load the gun, your environment pulls the trigger, right? So I have the genetics to have a thyroid issue, but then I was also not sleeping because I had a new baby, had a clinic, had all this other load that just, it's like my cup was overfloweth. My body couldn't handle all the different stressors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what about like conventional testing? I feel like my mom has thyroid issues. Same thing, whole family, all the women in my family have it. I've been
Yeah.
tested functionally and have been told that I have that the antibodies are there, but it's just a little bit, like a low amount. Uh,
Uh-huh.
for somebody who's just going to a regular doctor, they might not even be getting tested for the antibodies.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you tell people for that?
Yeah. So conventional medicine will check TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. That's a signal from the brain to the thyroid. So it's not actually testing thyroid hormone output. Sometimes they'll check T4, sometimes they'll check TPO antibodies if you're lucky. So conventional range is very broad. It includes the very sick, like people who are, bedbound, whose TSH is going to be higher. Functional range is much tighter because we want you thriving and feeling amazing. So we want things actually in a tighter range. So when I have clients, I will test TSH, free T4, which is the inactive hormone, free T3, which is the active, it's like the gas, like makes your metabolism go. Reverse T3 is the brakes, so I'll test that. A lot of conventional docs won't test it because insurance doesn't often cover it. TPO antibodies, thyroid peroxidase, and then thyroglobulin antibodies. Having the presence of antibodies is actually not a bad thing. It means your thyroid is clearing out senescent cells. So like dead cells that you don't want in there anyway. So if it's low and it's a below kind of that optimal functional range, we just monitor, right? Like let's see if those bump up. but not necessarily a bad thing. I know there are some doctors that are like 0 antibodies. And I'm like, actually, there is some use to them, some benefit to the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that I think you said 80% of people have Hashimoto's and mold. I might have gotten that.
In my clinical experience, the people who come to me, 80% of the people I see, 100% of the people I see has Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
80% of those people have mold exposure.
Wow. So,
So, yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm also looking for it. Like if you asked
mhm.
another clinician who, I have some friends that are like, I don't think mold's a thing. I'm like, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly dismissive, but okay. And maybe it just wasn't a piece of their journey and their picture, but some clinicians are like, I don't think mold's a thing. I don't think it.
Yeah. I guess I'm wondering, like, how many people do you see that you think that well, you mentioned stress, like any stressor is turning on the genetics for Hashimoto's. So that makes sense then. The people who are getting exposed to mold, that's a stressor. So that is driving that genetic. Is there anything else that connects a mold exposure to turning that on for people or
Yeah.
scientifically?
Yeah, so there's like HLA-DR genetic SNP, which we just can't detoxify as well. I think that there's about 30% of people that have that genetic SNP. So those people can be more sensitive to mold because mold gets detoxed through the liver, the gallbladder. So if you're not a good detoxifier,
Mm.
you're probably going to hold on to mold. Like I have people they're like, oh, no. I had mold exposure like 10 years ago. I have a brand new house. We check the house. It's fine. And they're actually just holding on to that old, like it just isn't moving through the body as it should, probably due to a genetic predisposition.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And, it shows up in so many ways. And it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. It's like, okay, maybe someone had these genetics and they had mold exposure. Maybe maybe they were fine and they had mold exposure that then triggered their Hashimoto's. It's hard to know which is which, but either way, it's like, okay, let's address both,
Yeah.
get you to the other side. Because ultimately, you get one life and you are the only person that has to live in your body and get to experience
Exactly.
all the feels of everything it feels.
Exactly. So what about people who I get differing opinions on this too. Uh,
Mm.
but like somebody's living in molds, like what can they be doing for their body while they're living in mold? Or do you not want to start anything until they're totally out of mold?
So I feel like Neil Nathan would say they have to be out of exposure before you start detox. I have found different things for different people. So some people are so sensitive, 100%. They have to remove themselves out of the exposure to then start. When I start people moving mold out of their body, the first step is let's just open up your drainage pathways. Let's support your liver, your gallbladder, your gut, your ability to sweat, kidneys, brain function. It's like clearing the pipes before you bring in something like binders and antifungals to bind to stuff. Like we need the pipes open. So
Right.
sometimes people feel better once you're just starting to open that up. If there's still, there's some people who can't move. They're like, I can't afford remediation and I can't afford a rental or a new house. So it's like, okay, let's do what you can. Let's try and get you out of the house as much as possible. Like if it's like go work in a co-working space, open the windows, air filters. They're a little bit like Band-Aids, but you do the best you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard piece. It's so hard to find something and then it's hard to know whether it's safe. Like what you were saying, earlier, and you had inspections and things are missed and then you just have no idea. So it's like it's good to know that there's things people can be doing. Are there things like drainage opening things that you think everyone should be doing all the time?
Um,
Like sauna or like should
yeah. I love my sauna. I think so many people would benefit from sauna. I have seen people jump into a sauna and they are not good detoxifiers and it will cause insomnia in them. They'll jump in for like 10 minutes and they will not sleep the rest of the night. So yes, I love saunas, and I have seen people have reactions. So should people support digestion? Should they be pooping every day, sweating every day? Yes. Like
Yeah.
those would be things that would be, walking, getting movement, getting in the sunshine, those things. In terms of like biohacking tools like red light or sauna, I think do the basics first.
Mhm.
Like I have clients who are like, oh, I got this new red light. I'm like, you're only walking 2,000 steps a day. Like, let's get more steps and then you can go enjoy your red light,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, we want to do the best, right? So we like want to buy these
Yeah.
tools and these things, and I'm totally guilty for it. Something that's come full circle for me is just that realization of like, oh my gosh, so much of what we can do for ourselves is actually free. And we don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars because I spent an ungodly amount at the beginning because I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I need this to heal, this to heal, this to heal. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Part of like the healing is when you come back to being like, okay, like I can do a lot of these things from like just such foundational things. Get up, move your body, drink your water,
Eat your
mineral.
protein, lift some weight.
Protein. I love it. I want to talk to you about weight training and lifting because you talk a lot about that on your Instagram, and you really blend all these things so well. And like, I feel like I've heard there's been misconceptions like in the space when you're reading through people's stuff. And for people who are, I don't know, newly to this journey and they're, pretty low, what do you recommend for exercise and movement? Is lifting something that you hold off on? Is it good to do in the beginning? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I typically start with protein intake and steps. Soon after, there's weightlifting. I think it's confusing because you go to a conventional medicine doc and let's say you want to lose weight. They're like, move more, eat less. Like maybe you go for a run or, and women with autoimmune disease, they do that. And they're like, I'm on the couch for 3 days. I'm so tired. Functional medicine sometimes errs on the side of not enough. They're like, oh, take it easy, stretch, go to yoga, do some Pilates, do some low impact. And I think there's a detriment to that too, because it makes people almost into a victim mentality or a bit like, oh, I can't push myself too hard. When in actuality, we need muscle. Muscle has mitochondria. Mitochondria gives us energy. The more muscle we have, the more calories we burn at rest. The more muscle we have, the better we convert our thyroid hormones from the T4 inactive to T3 active. Muscles secrete myokines, which help regulate our hormones. So there's all this benefit to muscle tissue. It's just doing it in a way, proper progressive overload, right? Heavier, more volume over time that doesn't totally wipe us out from an energy perspective. And so I think from my background as like a chiropractor who does rehab, who has lifted weights since she was in high school, that's kind of one of my specialties combined with the functional medicine. I think there's really no detriment to having more muscle, right? As we age, we're going to lose muscle. As we go through menopause, we're going to lose even more muscle. So for me, I want to empower my women that like we can do the hard things. We just do them in small doses. Like we're not going to do an hour workout.
Yeah.
We're not going to do sets of 12 to 15. We're going to do sets of 8, 6.
Yeah.
And you can lift heavy and you can build your muscle tissue. Women with Hashimoto's, because they have lower thyroid function, it's harder for them to maintain their muscle mass. So a lot of women kind of, if they've lost weight, they kind of look like skinny fat. Like they just don't have like muscle tone. And so very common in the Hashimoto's population. It's just like, they're like, oh, I don't have muscle tone. If I stop moving my body, it's like, it goes away like that. So even more important for someone with an autoimmune disease or Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you say that, like, because that's what happened to me. I think I was erring on the side for so many years and I couldn't lose weight because I was thinking I was overdoing it when I probably wasn't overdoing it. However, I think like lifting is one thing and then doing a HIIT class that involves weights is like another thing, right?
Totally. So the research around HIIT training, like from Martin Gabala's lab, um, is 8 minutes of HIIT training.
Oh
It
my,
is not a 50-minute HIIT class. Like the
wow.
benefits of HIIT of like going hard, short break, go is for 8 to 10 minutes. But
Wow.
our culture has been like, oh, we're going to go hard for 60 minutes. And it's like, that's not how it's supposed to be done. And then women are like, I'm going to do this 5 days a week. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Well,
Yeah.
yes. Well, that's what happened to me because originally I was like, okay, I'm going to try to lose weight. I feel good. I was waking up at 5 a.m. on an empty stomach doing HIIT workouts. And then I was gaining weight and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I was like, okay, wait a second. Hold up. Like, I think now, and then the pendulum swung all the way to the other side where I was like, I should only be walking. And then it finally, like, I don't know, navigated my way through the weeds of like learning things, self-learning things, and realized like, yeah, maybe just like lifting weights is actually, I think, really good and healthy. And there's so many benefits like you're sharing. I didn't even know there was this many benefits, but I think it can be really confusing for women in the health space when they're trying to navigate their illnesses to figure out what is the right workout.
Yeah. And I think we just need some muscle stimulus. So hitting a certain number of grams of protein per meal, 30 grams, that stimulates muscle protein synthesis, stimulates maintenance of muscle tissue. When I start women who have not lifted, I'm like, we're going to do 3 deadlifts with 50 pounds.
Mm.
Sometimes they're like, I'm going to do 25. I go, fine. Right. It's not, hey, let's do 12 to 15 reps, no rest. I give women a minute to 2 minutes rest. So I use nervous system. I use humming and singing during their rest breaks to drop themselves back into the parasympathetic before their next set.
Love
Yeah.
that.
So I think, going back to meet the person where they're at, right? Like if
Yeah.
this woman hasn't worked, if they're in perimenopause and they have autoimmune disease,
Mhm.
don't program them something that you would program like your 16-year-old, football player or whatever. So, and when you go to a group class, they're just trying to give the let's sweat as much as possible experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my program Thyroid Strong, part of it is like thyroid friendly workouts. Let's give you wins, right? Because once you start feeling better and moving your body and eating better, your body craves more feeling good activities. So I have a client in Utah, the one who had the hives. When we first met, she's like, I feel like I'm sitting out on my life. I have 2 high schoolers that are about to go to college. My son asked me to go for a hike. It's a mile in, it's a mile out. She goes, I go for a mile, I go a mile out, and I need a 2-hour nap. And I feel like I want to do it. I love doing it. I want to spend time with my son before he leaves the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't because then dinner doesn't get made and for her, she had moderate sleep apnea. She had mold exposure. She had H. pylori, which is a bacteria infection in the stomach. And we addressed that. And she sent me a message. She's like, I just went water skiing for the first time in 5 years with my kids. And it didn't wipe me out. And I didn't take a nap afterwards. And I haven't, she used to take a 2-hour nap every day.
Wow.
And she's like, I can't remember the last time I took a nap. So things like that life-changing, you feel like you're missing out on your kid's life and you can
Yeah.
give that back to someone. It's a pretty tremendous transformation.
That's amazing. That's like a
Yeah.
common thing I hear from people. They do a small thing, just a small walk, and then it's like an hour, 2 hours out. I'd love to hear more about your program. Can you share a little bit about Thyroid Strong and how people can join?
So there's a workout piece.
Yeah.
That's like a DIY, do it yourself, thyroid friendly workouts. We lift a little heavier, lower reps, long rest breaks. We do nervous system regulation between sets. And then my one-on-one program is really building a custom workout program, dialing in protein, sleep, nervous system regulation. That's like the 4 corners of the house
Mm-hmm.
foundation. And then looking at root causes. So gut, mold, parasites, heavy metals. The whole goal, most women want to lose weight and get their energy back.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that they don't see is, oh, I get to go water skiing with my kids for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I can make dinner and like sit by the campfire and not feel like, guys, I got to go take a nap. Bye. Like that's the things that women don't see on the other side. So that's, yeah. So I typically work with women like a 6-month capacity to start.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of providers know how to do body recomposition. They're like, we know functional medicine. We know how to make you feel good.
Right.
But you're like, but women also want to look good. They want to be like toned and they want to like,
Exactly.
change how they, like arms and, waistline. So I think just from my background of lifting weights and calories and macros and that with the functional medicine, I think is a powerful tool that, I think it's a powerful tool.
Yeah. And it's
that not
very
a lot of people
unique.
do.
Yeah. That makes you very unique in the space because I think you're absolutely right. Like, I want to be healthy and feel good, but I want to look good too. I want to like know what's the right movements I should be doing and recomp my body and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have had clients where there is a time and place where it's like, you just need to walk.
Yeah.
Those are typically the people who undereat and overtrain for decades, right? And so there's some cortisol dysregulation or, they wake up, they don't eat and they like go to their HIIT workout in the morning. Those people, yeah, it's like we got to pull back, but like it doesn't mean don't lift weights forever. Like you're going to go back to it eventually, but we just need a period of resetting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I always like to end all my episodes on one question. I just would love if you could leave us with a piece of wisdom, something that you've taken away from this journey. You've had such a long journey with mold and it's an emotional roller coaster. And I like to leave people with like a little piece of wisdom when it comes to just like the mental and emotional toll that it takes. So I'd love for you to share like if there's anything that you've learned along your journey that you would share with others.
Well, I think this is a learned skill, but I think staying curious is one thing. So like if you don't feel good, don't dismiss yourself, even if everyone else is. Like keep staying curious because it's giving you information. That's one thing. And then, I've done 5 mold remediations in 10 years.
My gosh.
And I can now, I like the inspector comes, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like I like walk with them around the house. Whereas before I would have to leave the house because I was so rattled. Remediation comes, like I can actually keep emotional neutrality. Like, when they talk about medicine, like watching clouds pass in the sky, there's no judgment or attachment to those clouds.
Yes.
I actually kind of have the same feeling to mold remediations. And part of it was just going through the process and learning and flexing that muscle. And I think that can be possible for anyone because I know it can be so emotional and like devastating, like tearing drywall. Like I have clients that are like, the drywall, I'm like, who cares? Like that can get put back up.
Yeah.
Like what's a sheet of drywall these days? Who cares? But people have this feeling of like, oh, but my house and the walls and everything's like formed and it's one and like to tear it apart. And so I think like our capacity to hold whatever comes our way is probably greater than we know. And sometimes, it's going through it a couple of times to move through it with grace and be resilient through it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, you definitely are a good example of that neutrality and having gone through it. It's sort of like, I'm sure it just kind of numbs you to the situation a little bit. But you mentioned some nervous system things that you did early on. What did you do specifically? Are you keen to one personally?
Yeah. So I'm very much into like using the body to shift the nervous system. So I'll do like vagal nerve sweeps, like things like this. Butterfly taps. So vagus nerve comes out right under your collarbone. So butterfly taps, like telling myself, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Especially if I'm staring at a screen for a while, I'll do some kind of EMDR stuff. So I'll like hands behind the head, tilt to the right, look to the left until I get a parasympathetic response. So it might be a sigh, it might be a burp, it might be just like, so I'll do that because when we look at our screen all day, we're actually putting ourselves in like sympathetic dominance. Those are the big 3. So like, I'm like,
yeah,
like my kids are getting me like riled up. I'm like,
I love it. Also, like, just so simple. And again, free little things that we can do. So
Yeah.
this is awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I would love for you to just share, like, how can people find you? What's your Insta? What other channels are you on?
Yeah. So website, dremilykiberd.com, Instagram handle, thyroid.strong. I also have a podcast, Thyroid Strong Podcast. We'll have to get you on there. And I'm on like YouTube and TikTok, less active, but more so on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been absolutely amazing. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Awakening Spaces podcast. If you're ready to take what you've learned and start applying it to your own home, then there's a few ways that we can support you. On our website, you can find a collection of free and paid guides and courses that will walk you through everything from designing a healthy home to choosing safe materials and reducing mold, chemical, and EMF exposure. And if you're looking for more personalized guidance, then we also offer one-on-one consulting and design support, where we act as your owner's representative to help you plan, manage, and execute your new build or renovation project with confidence. You can explore all of these offerings on our website at awakeningspaces.com. And if this podcast has helped you in any way, we would be so incredibly grateful if you would like, subscribe, and share this podcast so that it can reach more people. Until next time, thank you so much for listening and being here and stepping into what it means to be an awakened homeowner.